the ceremonial lamp. I now request all the dignitaries to take their seat on the dais. Now I request Shruti to present sapling to honorable guest. Now I request Shrishti to present sapling to Director, CIMP. Now I request Anshika to present sapling to the Chief Administrative Officer. May I now invite Professor Dr. Julie Banerjee to the lectern for the welcome address.
Good morning to the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. On behalf of CIMP, I, Dr. Julie Banerjee, Training and Placement Officer, take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed guest, Mr. Singh Shekhawat sir. It is a great pleasure to welcome such a noted personality to our CIMP campus. I am extremely overwhelmed to read the brief profile of our esteemed guest. Singh Shekhawat sir is an MBA HR from XLRI Jamshedpur and has strategically and global experience at senior leadership roles with Indian and multinational companies internationally renowned for their excellence in management such as ITC Limited, American Express, Whirlpool Corporation, Honda Motors, Holcim and Wellspun Group in the realm of FMCG services, consumer durables and manufacturing across geographies. Singh Shekhawat sir reached leadership role in 1995 when he became the first Director HR of Whirlpool Corporation in India and has since stayed at senior leadership roles for 24 years into restructuring, re-engineering and right-sizing organizations to keep them contemporary by inclusive and transformational strategies. At Whirlpool, he played a critical role in drastically reducing excessive backward integration by hiving off outsourcing non-core business services, thus by implementing radical changes in an innovative manner. He helped turn around an ailing Whirlpool. He played the role of a key change agent. At Honda Motors, he built a credible organization and turned around a loss-making and crisis-ridden company into a robust and profit-making business by resolving the worst iron crisis India incorporation has faced. This is now being taught as a case study in leading business schools of India. Over the last 3 decades, he has been through the entire gamut of HR, adding significant value, be it startup ventures, M&A, organizational restructuring, or innovative change initiatives to ensure companies continue to fulfill aspirations of all stakeholders. He has written numerous papers and presented over 100 papers around the world and has won prestigious awards. His services have been recognized and rewarded by American Express and Whirlpool Corporation, who selected him for training programs abroad. His seniors, peers and juniors regard him as a genuine HR professional who cares for the success of his colleagues and the business he has been associated with. With a round of applause, we welcome our esteemed guest to the campus of CIMP. So we request you to come and address the gathering.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Respected Dr. Rana Singh, Shri Kumud Kumar, esteemed faculty members of the Institute and friends. Ask not what the country can do for you. Ask what you can do for the country. These were the lines spoken by John Kennedy on 20th of January 1961 when he was inaugurated as the President of the United States of America. And these lines hold good for us also. Ask not what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country. Now, my journey with XLRI started in 1981. I had to first undertake a written examination of about 3 hours. Having cleared that, I had to go through rounds of group discussions and interviews, so on and so forth. And we only had a class of 45 those days. XLRI didn't take more than 45 days. 45 seats or 45 students. So I was competing with 15,000 students for one single seat. So you can well imagine back then how much was the competition. But competition is a way of life, and it's become more competitive now to get into XLRI. And when I was in XLRI, many students among the 45 plus 45 of my seniors and 45 of my juniors We used to be the best of the best in the country, and we used to rub shoulders with each other, and that rubbing of shoulders used to bring shine. And different people had different hobbies, pastimes. They used to spend time in playing football, cricket, so on and so forth. But my ambition was to gain as much knowledge as I could. And fortunately, XLRI had an excellent library where we used to get all the journals of the world that you can think of. And every evening, punctually, I used to spend 2 hours in the library reading every single bit of general knowledge, whether it was concerned with HR or it was concerned with politics or concerned with international affairs. And GK later on went on to become my main strength, which played a key role in my success in getting into some of the best companies like ITC. To give an example, the selection procedure of ITC was even more difficult than that of XLRI, and getting into ITC was very, very difficult, much more difficult than getting into XLRI. And we had to deliver impromptu speeches. Impromptu speeches are something, you're given the topic and you have to speak on the spot. It's not extempore speech. Please remember the difference between an extempore speech and an impromptu speech. Extempore, you're given some time to prepare. In impromptu, you're not given any time to prepare. And the topic that I received was, has Hinduism been a hindrance in the economic progress of India? Now please tell me, is this topic connected to HR? No, not at all. And that's where my general knowledge came in handy. And I was able to speak on that topic for 2 minutes solely because of the knowledge that I gathered in the XLRI library, where I used to spend 2 hours every evening from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So your knowledge is your strength, biggest strength. And this general knowledge came in handy in resolving many of the difficult problems which I faced during my career. Now, let me give you an introduction to my knowledge of Bihar. After getting into ITC, after getting selected into ITC in 1983, ITC has 5 factories. It's a tobacco company, you might be knowing it all, but it's diversified into hotels, agribusiness and various other platforms. My first place of posting was Munger in Bihar. It's the 3rd largest factory of ITC after Bangalore, Saharanpur, Munger, and there's a factory in Kidapur as well. And our head office was at 37 Chaurangi, Calcutta. So first I had to come to Patna, taking a flight from Delhi, hopping flight from Delhi to Lucknow to Patna, and catch a train to Jamalpur. From Jamalpur I had to rent out a Hindustan tracker, and I traveled to the ITC factory. And it was a different world altogether for me. I had never experienced that kind of world. But again, my GK, my general knowledge came in handy. Munger had backward, forward, Yada versus this, that and the other. But we avoided any kind of that. India is a secular world. India is a secular country. We must not polarize it on the basis of caste, creed, religion. Unfortunately, this is happening in recent times, and I would request dear students here, not to be get carried away by this kind of polarization. Any kind of polarization is bad. We are one country, and after thousands of years of struggle, we have become one country. Let's retain it as one country and avoid any kind of polarization. That's the lesson I learned in ITC Munger. I spent 3 years, which were quite useful. Coming to American Express, American Express came into India in 1923 as a banking entity, and besides bank, they also had 3 products called travel-related services. That is the credit card, traveler's checks, and travel services. American Express used to operate in 120 countries. India was one of them, and I was manager human resources. American Express gave me opportunities of traveling abroad for training and also presenting my own papers, my views before international audience. And finally, Whirlpool Corporation came into India, and they acquired an Indian company called Calvinator of India. Have you heard of Calvinator of India? Calvinator of India is a refrigerator manufacturing company set up in 1963 by an Indian entrepreneur by the name Mr. Desai. He ran into losses and he sold it off to Whirlpool Corporation for a sum of $250 million. And they didn't have a structured HR department, which was one of the reasons they used to face strikes every year. So I was the first person to have been selected as the Director of Human Resources of Whirlpool Corporation, and we realized that the company was overstaffed, overmanned, and we had to downsize it, and also the erstwhile owner of Whirlpool Corporation, is very important point which you will be facing in your careers, thought that it will be economical to manufacture everything under his own roof, right from lamination of wires to compressors to plastic parts of refrigerators, whereas the philosophy of Whirlpool Corporation was to focus only on the assembly of refrigerators. But who will buy those compressor plants and the plastic plants and the lamination plant, because the cost structure was very high. The cost of labor was very high. So first we had to reduce approximately 1,500 people. And in the labor scenario, which is highly protected by various laws, the Trade Union Act 1926, etc., the only way we could downsize was by VRS. And the government of India at that point came in with a VRS scheme that up to an amount of 5 lakh rupees which you pay to the workers as VRS amount will be exempt from income tax. And we took advantage of that, and we negotiated with the union and agreed on paying 90 days of wages for every year of service completed, and the company had been set up in 1963. So we offloaded 1,500 people and successfully sold off compressor to Tecumseh plastic factories to Pulpet, and we totally reorganized, and our daily refrigerator production rose up from 2,400 pieces a day to 3,700 pieces a day. How much was the increase? 2,400 a day to 3,700 a day, and we introduced many more models. And today Whirlpool is thriving, it's a profit-making company, and many more products have been introduced. One more new factory has been put up at Ranjangaon near Pune to compete with Godrej, and we made it into a successful venture. All that requires a lot of strategizing, a lot of hard work, looking deep into the future, 10 years ahead, what is going to be the future of home appliances, what is going to be the competition. At one point in time, GE formed a joint venture with Godrej, and they set up a factory in Mohali to compete with us in Faridabad. But at that time, the worldwide chief of GE was, can you imagine, Jack Welch. Have you heard that name? Jack Welch? One of the most renowned business leaders of the world. And Jack Welch, his philosophy was, if I am not number one or at the most number two in any business that I am in, I must exit out of it. There is no point in being number three. And he was not either number one or number two in home appliances, and therefore he exited out of the business of home appliances. So kindly keep that in mind. You have to be focused where to be in business and where not to be in business. Then came in, you heard about Honda problem? There's a company called Honda Motorcycle and Scooters India Limited located in Manesar near Gurgaon. In 2001, the government of India allowed 100% FDI. You understand FDI? Foreign direct investment, and the Hondas came in and they set up their own plant in Manesar for manufacturing two-wheelers, both motorcycles as well as scooters. Have you heard of Activa?
Yes, sir.
That is the product of that company. It was a runaway success. Now, in 1984, when Mrs. Gandhi was the Prime Minister, she allowed joint ventures, 26% by the foreign partner and 26% by the Indian partner, and 4 JVs came up. One was Hero Honda, the other was Escorts Yamaha, third was Ind Suzuki. You must have heard of all these names?
Yes, sir.
Have you? And Hero Honda came to Honda and said, we are already your partners. We are representing Honda in India. Why do you have to come on your own? Honda said, well, you are already established, fine, but we want to start our own factory, which is 100% owned by us. And Hero Honda were petrified that if Honda comes, it will swallow them. So Honda's reaction was, and Honda said, you are an established company and we are just a small egg. The reaction of Hero Honda was, you are a dinosaur's egg. What happens when a dinosaur's egg hatches? Tell me please. A dinosaur emerges. So these were the apprehensions and fears of Hero Honda, and Hero Honda was constantly trying to downplay Honda. And these are corporate rivalries, competition, etc. And they did manage to get in left leader from West Bengal, Gurdas Das Gupta, and created a strike. Om Prakash Chautala was the chief minister. Lathi charge was done on the workers. 150 workers were injured. The factory remained closed for 2 months. The company was bleeding. Honda had invested 500 crores. They didn't have a structured HR department. That was the time when I was invited to take over as Vice President Human Resources of Honda Motorcycle and Scooters India Limited. And I convinced the Japanese management that we have to negotiate with the union, because the Honda management had been advised by Hero Honda that there should not be a union for 3 years since the inception of the company, and that proved to be a fallacy. We started negotiations with the union, and at that time the Chief Minister was Singh Shekhawat. You must have heard this name. He is a prominent Congress leader, and he was on the TV recently when the DSP unfortunately was killed by the mining mafia in Haryana. Bhupinder Singh Hooda said, Mr. Shekhawat, I want you to be successful because I want Honda to set up many more factories. I have to provide employment to my youth. I have to take Haryana forward, so at every cost I will give you support. And with his support and the support of the government machinery, we signed a settlement and resolved the problem of Honda Motorcycle and Scooters India Limited, and that company, which was tottering, it was absolutely shaken, and they had said, Mr. Shekhawat, if you can't resolve the problem in 2006, we'll sell it off to Hero and Honda and walk out of India. But we resolved that problem in less than 1 year, and the result is HMSI. What is HMSI? Somebody please? Honda Motorcycle and Scooters India. Can you speak up? Let it be a dialogue, not a monologue. You'll enjoy it much better. So we resolved HMSI, and today HMSI has not 1 but 5 plants. How many? 5. So how much of employment has been generated? How much of technology has come into India? And that's how the economic development of a country takes place. I would say that the real economic independence of India came in 1991 when Prime Minister Narasimha Rao opened up the Indian economy in 1991. Chairman Mao died in 1976. Have you heard of Chairman Mao? Who was he? He was a hardcore communist leader, and he kept China closed. Didn't allow any foreign investment. He died in 76, 78. Deng Xiaoping replaced him. Deng Xiaoping believed in opening up China, and he opened China on the plank of cheap labor, cheap land, cheap electricity, and all companies of Germany, Japan, America, UK, and the world came into China. And the result is, today China is the second largest economy of the world. Are you aware of that? Yes. Very recently a chart came on to LinkedIn and Facebook talking about 100 trillion economy of the world. US is still ahead of China with almost 25% of the GDP of the world. And China is second, and China is expected to overtake US in 2030. And where is India? We are 6th. Can you name the first 5? US, China, Japan, Germany, UK, and 6th is India. I mean, it's surprising. Small countries like Japan, Germany, UK, which are less than the size of perhaps Rajasthan, the place where I come from. They're smaller than them, and they have a GDP larger than that of India. That is because for 44 years from 1947 till 1991, we followed the socialistic pattern of economic development, which was the biggest blunder India committed. I'm not criticizing any political party. It's not my job to get into politics. We are into business. And you know what was the motto of American Express? How American Express is so successful as a company? MasterCard has 150 million card members. How many? 150 million. And how many does American Express have? 37 million. And American Express, with just 37 million card members, is making more profit than MasterCard with 150 million because of the quality of service they offer. American Express is world's largest service company. So the business consists of manufacturing as well as service industry. And the slogan of American Express was, "We are lean, we are mean, we are in business." So ladies and gentlemen, any person who will give you a job will give you a particular salary. For him, you are going to be just an investment. And they are going to expect 10 times of your salary in return to their business. In a balance sheet, on which side is capital? Tell me. Is it an asset or a liability? Please raise your hands, those who say it's an asset. 1, 2, and a couple of others. How many say it's a liability? So capital is a liability. Why is it a liability? Because the business has to serve the capital. You have to generate profits to give dividends to the shareholders. So it's a liability. Simple as that. So you are going to be an investment and hence a liability, and your employers are going to expect 10 times the return of the salary that you are getting from them. Is it making sense? So you can well imagine how well you have to prepare yourself to face the challenges of the world, challenges of your job. I give you another example where I faced a problem related to bonus. The union came up with profit and loss accounts of last 10 years and showed it to us that the company is making crores of rupees of profit. And the company is paying only 8.33% bonus. And they demanded 20% bonus. How much? How much was the company paying? And what is 8.33? 1 month's salary per year. Is that clear? And how much is 20%? 2.5 months of salary per year as bonus. And in support of their ill-informed, uneducated demand, they created violence. It was a cement company. They created violence. Cement companies are far off from civilization because of pollution and other factors. And mostly they have their own township, houses, staff, club, guest house. So the managers were, the lady is yawning. Am I boring? So they created violence. They entered the houses of the managers, beat them up, threatened their ladies, broke up refrigerators and assets and everything. Why? Because for some, ignorance is sin, and for some, ignorance is a bliss. What did I say? For some, ignorance is a sin, and for some, ignorance is bliss. The union didn't know that bonus doesn't come from profit and loss account. Profit and loss account is a part of the Company Law Act 1956. Why am I telling you? I am telling you this so that you prepare yourself and laws. That is going to be a very important part of your success as a manager. Ignorance is the greatest sin, and let's not be a victim of that ignorance which is a sin. Profit and loss accounts are prepared under the Company Law Act and are meant for paying dividends to the shareholders, and it has got nothing to do with bonus. Under which act is bonus paid? Bonus is paid under Payment of Bonus Act 1965. Have you heard of this act? Payment of Bonus Act 1965? Okay, please read it very carefully, because bonus normally is a very contentious issue in every company. Now, in profit and loss account under the Company Law Act 1956, bonus is calculated as per the straight line method. I don't have the time to explain you what is the straight. Do you know straight line method of depreciation?
Yes.
I'm glad you have been taught. Then you must have heard of bonus as written down value method. Have you heard of bonus as per depreciation as per written down value method? Kindly learn it. I'm glad you've learned it. So bonus, if you calculate under written down value method, the depreciation becomes a very large amount. Under straight line method, depreciation is very small. So the way of calculating bonus is you take gross profit minus depreciation is available surplus, 60% of that is allocable surplus. So if you calculate bonus as per the Payment of Bonus Act, no bonus was payable to the workers. But neither the management nor the union knew it, and the result was the violence. Is it interesting for you to learn this?
Yes, sir.
So the idea is, when you enter the arena of management, you have to be thoroughly prepared with even your laws. And my knowledge of laws was very helpful in resolving HMSI problem, Honda Motorcycle and Scooters India Limited. Many of you, if I may ask, what is a legal strike or what is an illegal strike? Can anyone describe?
So fortunately, the second year batch has just joined, so they are just likely to specialize. And on your right, they are the first year batches, so they have.
All right, so you would still be
Absolutely.
learning. So I shouldn't be asking you this question because
No,
it's...
I'm sorry, I'm defending them, because the guys who will be going for specialization in HR will be reading in the forthcoming trimesters.
Yeah, kindly read it very carefully. What is a legal strike? What is an illegal strike? And these sort of this kind of knowledge of laws is very, very useful in resolving industrial relations problems. Many of the managements resort to manipulation, buying some leaders, selling some leader, all kinds of nonsense. And let me assure you, from 83 till the time I was in my last job, I didn't pay a single penny of bribe to anyone. If you are strong in the knowledge of your subject, if you have the command over your subject, you don't need to get into any kind of manipulation. I hope you understand. So it's very important to have the knowledge of your subject. Coming to my last job, I was President Human Capital and General Affairs of a company called Welspun Corp. Welspun Corp was in the business of manufacturing large diameter steel pipes for transporting oil and gas. They had 5 factories, largest being in Anjar, Gujarat. Second largest again was at a place called Dahej in Gujarat. Third was in Mandya, Karnataka, near Mysore. Fourth was in Dammam, Saudi Arabia. And the fifth was in Little Rock, Arkansas, USA. And my headquarters were in Mumbai, and I had to travel to all these 5 factories at least once or twice in a year. And there were more than 5,500 employees of 13 nationalities. So it was an interesting experience to work with that an organization. Now with this, can we, sir, start the presentation?
Sir, yes, certainly. Sir, I would also like to request you to talk about the leadership style of Nipun Goenka ji and his father BK Goenka ji. Maybe in a brief 2, 3, 5 minutes. How was your experience working with them and their leadership style, how they grew from?
Okay. Now, Welspun Group was founded by a gentleman by the name Balkrishan Goenka. Have you heard this name, Balkrishan Goenka? His father was born in Churu. Churu is a place in Rajasthan. Churu is a place in Rajasthan in Shekhawati area, from where I also come. Do you know Shekhawati has contributed maximum number of entrepreneurs in the country? The Birlas, Singhanias, Podars, Goenkas, Bajaj. Any other name that comes to your mind? Junjunwala. Of course, you're right. And similarly, our chairman of Welspun Group, Balkrishan Goenka's father was born in Churu, which is a part of Shekhawati. Later on, he migrated to Hisar. Hisar is a place in Haryana. And you'll be surprised, Balkrishan Goenka is not a highly educated person. He's barely 10th class pass. And he started that business in 1990 with a very small capital. And sheer persistence, perseverance, never give up kind of an attitude. It's very important for you to learn. Perseverance is very important in life, never to give up. Let me digress a little. Have you heard of Adolf Hitler?
Yes, sir.
Adolf Hitler, many people say, became the leader of Germany because of his oratorial skills. Have you heard of this?
Yes, sir.
He was extremely good in keeping people spellbound by his speech.
Do you wish to get your laptop connected, sir?
We could do that.
Where is it? It's in your room. Should we get it?
I didn't get my laptop here.
I'll get it right up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Please get it.
So even Adolf Hitler, you would be surprised, had to learn public speaking. So you have, nothing in life comes in easy. Nothing in life comes in easy, and there are no shortcuts. Even a man like Adolf Hitler, who became the leader of Germany and started the Second World War, had to learn how to speak before. He had to stand in front of a mirror and practice public speaking. His gestures, his voice, his modulations, how to impress the public. So, ladies and gentlemen, nothing in life comes in easy. You have to practice. Similarly, coming back to my company, Mr. Balkishan Goenka failed in many businesses and he kept on persisting, didn't give up, and eventually now he is a very large industrialist. There are two main industries. One is Welspun India Limited, which is into textiles. Have you heard of Welspun Textiles? So the managing director of Welspun Textiles or Welspun India is his wife, Madam Dipali Goenka. And Balkishan Goenka is group chairman, and these days one Mr. Vipul Mathur is the managing director of Welspun Corp, which is producing is the second largest company in large steel dia pipes for transporting oil and gas, and 90% of our products go to North America as exports. Would you like to ask any questions at this point in time?
Sir, I have a small, humble request to you. If you could give some tips to all my brilliant MBA students, how they should master the art of public speaking.
Okay, that's very interesting. First and foremost, if you have to speak for 3 minutes, have as much stuff with you in your mind to allow you to speak for 15 minutes. How does that happen? By extensive reading, by expanding the horizons of your knowledge. If you have to speak for 3 minutes, you should have stuff worth 15 minutes. And that comes in only by reading. You have a library in this institute, and I'm sure you're getting all the journals, Harvard Business Review, Time, Newsweek, India Today, Business World, and so on and so forth. And you must be having books by eminent authors, Peter Drucker, Stephen Covey. Read them all. And try and keep them at the back of your mind. And once you have that much of knowledge, it will become very easy, and then you have to practice. Without practice, nothing happens. Otherwise, you will develop stage fright. You will be scared of facing your audience. So, practice is very important. Maybe you can start by addressing a small group of your friends, a group of 5 or 7. You can take turns to address each other. In XLRI, there were 4 houses, and I was member of a house, and we were given a topic. If you go left, you are right. If you go right, you are left behind. Can you repeat that topic, please? Yes, somebody, raise your hand, please. Yes, please. Yeah, I could see a hand being raised over there.
If you go left, you're right. If you go right, you're left behind.
He's absolutely right. I must clap for it. In one go, he could remember the topic. And I handled this topic maybe more than 30 years back. What do you speak on this? And nobody in my house was willing to speak on it. And there was a girl, and she was very smart in speaking English. Her name was Nita Helms. You can find her on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Also, she's in US now. She got selected for Tata Administrative Services and I went into ITC. During our time, there used to be only 3 top companies: Hindustan Lever, ITC and Tata Administrative Services. Right? And they still remain the top 3. So I called Nita and I said, you speak for the motion, I'll speak against the motion. She developed cold feet. Said, Hari, I don't understand the subject. If you go left, you're right. If you go right, you're left behind. Now, what the hell is the subject? I said, don't worry. I will write for you both for the motion as well as for against the motion, and we will practice it and then participate in the competition. Again, ladies and gentlemen, my general knowledge, which I gathered from the library of XLRI, came in handy. I mean, there is no limit to gathering knowledge and information. The best source of that is your own library. Our library used to be centrally air conditioned like this auditorium is, and every day, 5 to 7, I would devote into that library reading everything. And that helped me write both against the motion and for the motion on a topic as vague and as abstract as if you go left, you are right, if you go right, you are left behind. And we practiced it. There used to be an empty hall at 5 o'clock. Later on, people used to join for weightlifting, etc. In that empty hall at 5 o'clock, Nita and I used to practice our piece. I won the 2nd prize and she won the 3rd prize. This was in competition with CIMP Calcutta. Every year we used to go to CIMP Calcutta. CIMP Calcutta would come over to our campus and there will be competition on everything under the sun. And this was the topic. So, have I answered your question, sir?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I think now the students would be open to ask questions.
I think yes. Before that, I like to share a few more things. I was born in a city called Bikaner in Rajasthan, and till the age of 14, I was studying in Central School, Bikaner, where most of the students spoke Marwadi. That was our mother tongue, not only Hindi. I mean, English was absolutely out of bounds. Then my father was in army, he got transferred to Amritsar, and I was put into an English medium school. And I couldn't understand. My principal was an Englishman, my history teacher was an American, a couple of other faculty members were foreigners, and my classmates used to mock at me. They used to laugh at me. They used to joke at me. And therefore I decided that I would develop my English to the extent I'll beat them hollow. And from then onwards, I'll advise you to improve your vocabulary by reading a book called 30 Days to a Powerful Vocabulary. Will that be useful, sir?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Kindly note it down. 30 Days to a Powerful Vocabulary by Wilford Funk and Norman Lewis. I don't know whether this is still in print, but you can get it on Amazon or online. Let me once again repeat, 30 Days to a Powerful Vocabulary. That will help you build up your vocabulary, and without vocabulary you can't speak any language, and without the knowledge of English language you cannot survive in the corporate world, be it an Indian company or an MNC. And this man who is standing in front of you today at the age of 14 knew nothing of English, and when I passed out from XLRI in '83, I scored 99.99 percentile in TOEFL. Top India. Top India. What is TOEFL? Test of English is a foreign language. So why I'm quoting this is, if I can do it, you all can do it. There's no big deal. Anybody can do it, provided you have the determination. I went through that humiliation of being mocked at, being joked at, and I developed the determination that I would one day beat them hollow, and I did do that. And you all can do that. You are second to none. Secondly, if you want to learn how to live your life successfully, I would highly recommend a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Who is the author? Who said that? Dale Carnegie. Have you read that book? Did you like it? It's the Bible of how to live your life. I am once again repeating, you could note it down if you want. How to Win Friends and Influence People is a very, very useful book in how to make friends, retain friendship, how to respect others, how to get respect from others. And the second book by the same author, Dale Carnegie, is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. This again will be very useful. Have you read the second one, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie? Yeah, kindly read the whole of it, you will enjoy it. And after you have read 30 Days to a Powerful Vocabulary, kindly read 6 Weeks to Words of Power. 6 Weeks to Words of Power by the same authors. And this is how once you build up your vocabulary, then that adds to your public speaking, that adds to your presence. You can handle interviews, you can handle group discussions. So to summarize, number one, develop a lot of general knowledge. You've got a very good library, make full use of it. You're going to be here for 2 years. Every day, read everything. And mind you, you learn a language not by reading it, but by anyone? I beg your pardon? By listening to it. You don't learn a language by reading it, but by listening to it. So those of my friends like me, who are very poor in English, I made a resolve I will not read Hindi or listen to anything in Hindi. Because Hindi is not going to get me a job. Even till date, I don't read Hindi. I only get Times of India at home, and I watch only English television serials, channels. We all know Hindi, no big deal about it. But if in the world of business, it's only English which will take you to places. So this is my advice. Some may agree, some may not agree. Some may say this is Hindi is our national language, Hindi is our mother tongue. With due respect, it is. There is no doubt. But fact of the matter is, if you are in the world of business, Hindi doesn't help you. Only English helps you. And the way to build English is to watch BBC, CNN, India Today, LDTV. That helps you keep updated with your current affairs, as well as it builds up your correct pronunciation is very important. Correct accent is very important. It will help you build up that correct pronunciation. So, Coming back to, where do we start from? 30 days to a powerful vocabulary, 6 weeks to words of power, and then how to win friends and influence people, how to stop worrying and start living, and listening to English channels and practicing public speaking. It's very easy, no big deal. You lose your stage fright in 3 minutes at the most. Shall we get on with the presentation, sir?
I think we'll do it next time, so we can go for the interaction mode with the students right now.
All right, sir.
Yes. Can we have some more questions from the students?
Yeah, please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm standing in front of you with 35 years of experience behind me. So feel free to, I'll be happy. Let me remind you, I went to collect my degree. We used to pass in 83, our degree used to be given to us the next year. So I went to collect my degree on 4th of March 84, and we were surprised in an auditorium similar to this. J.R.D. Tata was sitting on the dais, and at the back were Ratan Tata, Lucy Modi, Sumant Mulgaonkar, Darbari Seth. Have you heard these names?
Yes, sir.
And the galaxy of Tata Honchos, the captains of Indian industry. And students said, sir, we want to hear something from you. So J.R.D. replied, well, I would like to have a dialogue. You ask me questions, I'll answer them rather than my speaking, which will be a monologue. So I respect Dr. Singh. Let's have a dialogue now.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, please.
So I am Piyush Harsh. My question is, when I walk into an interview, what does the hiring manager looks for the most?
Okay, that's an interesting. First is your confidence. And where do you get your confidence? Your body language. You should stand erect. You should look as if you are full of energy, bubbling with energy, because everybody expects you to work for 10 hours a day, not 8 hours. Unless you are full of energy, nobody will select you. If you come slumping, not being able to walk properly, your body language is not correct, nobody will hire you. 2, maintain an eye contact. If you are talking to somebody, look deep into his eyes. Otherwise, people will say he is telling lies. For lack of eye contact means the person is not telling you the truth. So develop that confidence to have eye contact. Sit straight, don't slump into the chair. And lastly, you are not expected to know the universe. If you don't know anything, just say no. Don't hesitate. Don't be blown off your feet. Universe is too vast, you are not expected to know everything. So, try and answer as many questions. But if you do get trapped into somewhere, be honest. They're looking for honesty. They're looking for integrity. A person who can show integrity, honesty, even by saying no, will be respected. So, can you repeat what I said? Body language,
Eye contact,
eye contact,
body
your
posture.
energy level, your knowledge level, and your honesty and integrity in saying no if you don't know anything. Have I answered your question?
Certainly, sir. Thank you.
Any other question, please?
Good morning, sir. My name
Morning.
is Abhinav. Sir, you are an XLRI graduate.
That's right.
So, what are the things the XLRI students bring on the table, apart from the academics, apart from the brand value, that they get a very high-paying jobs? Because, sir, many companies like McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, American Express as well, opt these students, and if we have to get these jobs, they want us to get experience first.
I don't think experience during my times was not a prerequisite. You know, the reason XLRI people get picked up, one is the selection procedure is so rigorous that you only allow the crème de la crème of the country to get into the institute. And then you are rubbing shoulders with your seniors who are equally bright as you are, and you are also rubbing shoulders with your juniors, who will follow 1 year later. And then XLRI exposes you to so many speakers, just as I mentioned, J.R.D. Tata. He shared so much of his knowledge, it was so enlightening to learn from a legend like J.R.D. Tata. And Rusi Modi used to visit our campus every 6 months. And it used to be a treat to interact with that great man by the name Rusi Modi. He used to be so full of humor, so full of life. And there was a tricky problem in Tata Steel. The workers used to complain that our toilets are always dirty and those of the executives are always clean and neat. Why this discrimination? Are we any lesser human beings? Are we not employees of Tata Steel? On the spot, Rusi Modi took a decision. Change the boards. From tomorrow, this will be workers' toilet, this will be executives' toilet. On his feet, he took that decision. And the problem was solved. So you have to be a quick thinker, and that quick thinking comes from a lot of learning again. Nobody is born with the entire wisdom of the world, infinite wisdom of the universe. You have to develop it. Rusi Modi, I asked him, sir, what's your qualification? He said, I'm a Royal Division from the University of Cambridge. What is Royal Division? 3rd Division. And one day, it was a Sunday, and you know the headquarters of Tata Empire? It's in Bombay.
Homey Street.
Sorry?
Homey Street.
Yeah, the street is right, but what's the name of the building? The building is called Bombay House. So Rusi was at Bombay House on a Sunday, and he parked his car in the wrong place. The street was deserted because it was a Sunday. And that gentleman was so humorous by nature. One traffic policeman came. Hey mister, you're parking your car at the wrong place. Tere baap ka sadak hai kya? Rusi Modi, instead of getting angry, he took that traffic policeman to the end of the street where it was written Homey Modi Street. ये मेरा बाप था. The sense of humor plays a very important role in diffusing a potentially explosive issue. He diffused it. So keep humor is very important. Some more questions, please?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this gentleman in coat and jacket.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, there is an emerging trend where young people of our generation join companies, but they leave them within a year or so for a salary hike. I would love to know your opinion regarding this trend.
See, if you change jobs frequently, nobody will offer you a job, that you are running away from problems. You don't have the guts to stay at one place and face the problems and solve the problems. The moment some problems came, you give up the job and jump for another one. So your market value goes down. Spend at least 3 years, choose a company wisely. Study its culture, its style of management, who are the promoters, who are the owners, what is their behavior, what's the organizational culture, will I be able to survive here for 3 years, minimum? Will I be able to contribute here for 3 years? Is the atmosphere conducive enough for me to last here for at least 3, 4, 5 years? And once you are convinced, apply for it. Once you get the job, hang on at least for 3, 4 years. Otherwise, people will think you are running away from problems. And your market value will be finished in no time. It will be very detrimental to your career. So don't change jobs frequently. Spend 3, 4 years. Is it useful?
Absolutely.
Definitely, sir.
Don't run away from problems. Life is full of problems. There are no easy solutions.
Sir, I have a small update. I thought I would like to have your comments for my young MBA students. Year 2000, I was having an evening dinner with Ishad Hussain, JJ Irani and Muthuraman at Beldi Club, Jamshedpur.
Right.
So I had a good long round of almost 2-3 hours together wherein we were talking about strategies and many other things. Then coming back, I saw one day Ratan Tata, a day before the launch in Delhi. He did not take one of the Taj hotels. He was staying in TCS guest house with absolute simplicity and being very worried what's going to happen tomorrow at the launch. This was second part of it. Then the new echelons, means the top echelons, there was a group meeting of the top brass of the Tata group in the ballroom rendezvous or at the Taj Hotel, Mumbai. So then they were talking very, audaciously in terms of we have a $600 billion overall global revenue coming in and we are investing around $25 billion for CSR contributions. So what I could see that the top brass of the Tata group, they were so down to earth, humble, polite, courteous. Wherein the next echelon was slightly very in terms of superheaded in terms of the overall revenue. So what would be your message to all the brilliant students, how the humility and humbleness, politeness makes an important part of their overall persona when they are in the corporate world? Because the moment I see they get 1 or 2 tags, senior manager or HOD or AVP or VP, they start becoming very arrogant with their colleagues and counterparts. So I think a message from your side to all of them.
Very, very important question. The higher you grow, the humbler you must become. Very recently I was reading it. J.R.D. Tata had a driver by the name Peter. And J.R.D. was also the chairman of Air India. So the headquarters of Tata's are which house? Bombay House. So he had to travel from Bombay House to Air India building, which is a distance of about 5-7 kilometers. And his driver was Peter. So JRD used to tell Peter, if I don't come down by 11:15, go for your lunch. Don't bother to wait for me. For 20 years, JRD never bothered. When he came down after 11:15 and Peter was not there, he'll take another car and go back to Bombay House. Because he has to travel between Bombay House and Air India. Have you heard of the principles of natural justice? Please learn them very carefully, they'll come in handy. Principles of natural justice. If a complaint comes to you, listen to both sides of the story before taking a decision. And automatically when you realize that you are heading the organization, you are carrying onerous amounts of responsibility that will humble you down. And that is one quality which the Tata Empire have inculcated in their top echelons, or maybe it's there in the Parsi culture. Tata is a Parsi group. And Jari Tata is a very humble man, was a humble man. He passed away in 1993. I met him in 84. Rusi Modi was again a very humorous and humble man, and if anybody approached him for any kind of help, he'll go out of his way to help him. Ratan Tata is equally humble. But this cannot be generalized. I met two very arrogant managing directors of Tata. One was Ajit Kerkar of Indian Hotels. You must have heard of him. Second was Darbari Seth of Tata Chemicals. So it's better to be humble, down to the earth, a good human being, help others, you'll be regarded, respected and remembered. It's very easy to show your stars on the shoulder. I'm the managing director or the chairman or the general manager or vice president and XYG. That doesn't earn you respect. Respect cannot be demanded. Respect has to be commanded. Am I making sense? Respect cannot be demanded. Respect has to be commanded. Commanded by your leadership qualities of honesty, integrity, humbleness, taking fair decisions, being compassionate towards fellow human beings. Me and a class fellow of mine got selected in two companies after passing out from, I'll just take a minute, from XLRA, one of which was ITC and the other was ICI. Have you heard of ICI? That's disappeared, it's no longer in existence. Imperial Chemical Company, Imperial Chemical Industry, that is also a British company. So we decided that both the companies are British, they are paying the same amount of money, they have more or less the same corporate standing in the world. So which companies to choose, whether to join ITC or to join ICI? Are you with me all? Can you listen to me please? So what we decided was that we will go and sit for 1 hour quietly without disclosing our identity in the lobby of ICI, and the next day we will go and sit in the lobby of ITC Limited, watch the behavior of their top people, and they then take a decision which company to join. Now we went to ICI. The top lobby was dimly lit and there were 2 lifts, and the receptionist came in late. She was in a hurry, she put her bag and sat on the chair, didn't care to look around. We were sitting on the sofas on one right side. Since it was dimly lit, she couldn't see us, but we were seeing them all. And people came, they didn't greet each other, they didn't queue up for the lift. They were scrambling to get into it as early as possible. And some people are going up by stairs, and one guy had a black topi and an umbrella tucked under his arm. And while going up the stairs, he puked on the wall with his palm. I hope you understand, in Bihar, it's a culture to eat khani, at least in Mongeri it used to be, I don't know anymore. So we observed that for 1 hour, and next day we went to ITC. We again quietly went and sat on the sofa. People came up, there were 2 lifts, no staircase. There was a staircase, but nobody took the staircase. 37 Chaurangi, Calcutta, and ICI was 41 Chaurangi, just close by. All the people were normally dressed up in navy blue jacket with a tie and pigeon grey trousers. They all queued up. The peon came. He also stood up in the queue. The chairman, when the year I joined, Mr. Ajit Narayan Haksar was the chairman of ITC. Have you heard this name? N. Haksar was the legendary chairman of ITC who built ITC. He joined ITC in 1948 after his MBA from Harvard. In 68 he became the chairman of ITC and diversified ITC into hotels and various businesses, and he retired in 1983. He came and he stood behind the peon. And nobody was in awe of Ajit Narayan Haksar that he is the chairman, we should get out of the queue and make him go to the lift first. Nothing doing. We all stood, and Ajit Narayan Haksar put his 2 hands on the shoulders of the peon, started talking to him, how's your family, how's your son doing in the school or college, whichever. And we watched that for 1 hour, and it was very clear which company to join. So kindly inculcate these qualities in your character, in your personalities, to be respectful to a peon, absolutely up to a board member. They're all your employees. He's doing his job, you're doing your job. Nobody is big, nobody is small. These are all stupid things, don't carry them in your mind. You want to ask anything? So I saw this in the lobbies of ICI. Sir, I illustrated it with real life examples. So that's how we joined ITC. In ITC, shouting at your subordinate was banned. In ITC, you could be fired from your job only for 2 reasons. Physical violence and financial misappropriation. There was no third reason for anyone to be removed from his job in ITC. If you're a low performer, you will not get promotion, but nobody will ask you to leave the company. So that lifelong guarantee of employment also made ITC into a great company. In any case, they were attracting the best of the crowd. We were shortlisted from XLRI, taken to 37 Chaurangi. There people from IIM Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Bangalore, XYG came and we competed. There were 2 case studies for 20 minutes, read them, discuss them, impromptu speeches, so on and so forth. Selection was extremely difficult. From my class of 45, only 3 of us made it into ITC. Only 3 of us, the entire class was debating. We were a cohesive group of 45 people, but when it came to jobs, we were at each other's throats. I have to get this job. I don't care about others. But eventually, only 3 were taken in. So answering Dr. Rana Singh's question, always be humble, considerate, compassionate, use principles of natural justice, listen to both sides, and it will be good for you, it will be good for the culture of your company. Respect everybody. Everybody are doing their own jobs. They are not lesser than you, they are not bigger than you. You're all equal. Have I answered your question, sir? Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please. Yes, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Good
My
morning.
name is Umar. I was listening your words of wisdom, and that was really enriched us. So since you were in a role of leadership almost entire life, and you have been working
Not entire life.
almost half or more than we can
Till
say.
83 till 95 I was a manager. 94 I became a director.
Exactly, sir. And you have worked with the world great leaders. So I just wanted to know till now, if you will look back, and if I want you to sum the two most common traits that you found in the world's great leaders, what it is exactly, sir?
Two traits.
Most common among all the great leaders.
See, JRD, I have only heard him for about maybe an hour when he came to our convocation on 4th of March 84. But the person who left an impact on me was Ajit Narayan Haq sir, the chairman of ITC. This gentleman did his MBA from Harvard in 1948, joined ITC, and became chairman at a young age in 1968. He was the first Indian chairman. ITC is a British company. It's owned by British American Tobacco, BAT. He had all ingredients of something called leadership. He'll take initiative, he'll burn the midnight oil, he'll plan everything to the last dot. He will delegate, decentralize, and watch their performance, not interfering, and extremely compassionate in case anybody committed mistake. These things were there. He was not very humorous, but he was to the business, extremely articulate. He was invited to ITC for addressing our convocation, and I was amazed by his command over the English language. That was good quality, and he had that body language, the eye contact, high energy level. He could work for 14 hours a day, non-stop, year after year. He was one person, and the second person was Rusi Modi. Rusi Modi joined Tata Steel in 1941 as a labor officer and went on to become the chairman. And he introduced a concept called workers' participation in management. You must have heard of it. And for 40 years till the time he was at the helm, there was no strike in Tata Steel because the system that he had built of workers' participation in management took care of all the needs of the workers, and they didn't have to go on strike or stop work or get into non-cooperation with the management. There was no confrontation between the workers, and Rusi Modi was adored by the workers. On his birthday, 40,000 workers of Tata Steel would gather in, and they'll greet him on his birthday, and he was such a simple man. And in that vast gathering of 40,000, he will go to the nearest worker sitting over there, and he'll say, "Do you have a BD?" And he'll take a BD from that worker and light it, and the workers at large would think, he's one of us. That's the way you identify with your audience. And his audience were the workers of Tata Steel. They had high respect and regard for him. So identify with your audience and be compassionate, be fair, and treat them all with all fairness, and you'll be a good leader. No favoritism. There are no shortcuts in life. There are no shortcuts in life, and use 3 words: Lagan, Mehnat, Imandari. If you don't use these three words, Lagan, Mehnat, Imandari, you will not get anywhere in life. Don't take any shortcuts. Have I answered?
Certainly, sir.
So ANH, Ajit Narayan Haq sir, and Rusi Modi left a deep imprint on me, because I was in XLRI for 2 years and we used to interact with Rusi Modi very often. Rusi Modi was very short in height, but he was very humorous, you know. And whenever he used to come to deliver a speech in the Tata Auditorium, which had a capacity of 1500, you know, his peon would walk behind him with a small stool, because he was very short in height. And he used to show it to the entire audience. The peon will bring in the stool and then he'll stand up on the stool and start addressing.
So was Muthuraman also, sir.
I didn't interact with
He was
Muthuraman.
also very short and dark black in complexion, but amazing speaker.
I had passed out by then. By the time Muthuraman came, Rusi Modi was at the helm when I passed out in 83. I was in Excel from 81, 83. And at that time, Rusi Modi was the uncrowned king of Jamshedpur. I haven't seen a leader like Rusi Modi. I gave you that example, you know. Change the boards. This is workers and this is executives. Any other questions, please?
Sir, one more question I have, may I?
Sure.
So I come to happen a journal written by Henry Carl on leadership, in which there's a statement written that if you have a quality of sacrificing things, that means you have a 50% leadership in you. So could you please give your thoughts on that? What does it exactly mean?
That means empathy. If somebody is in trouble, if somebody has committed a mistake, look things from his viewpoint. Put yourself in his shoes and see things from his angle before condemning him, sacking him, punishing him. Empathy is a very important trait of leadership. That's what I understand from what you said.
So I got what you have said. Thank you very much for your opinion.
You're welcome.
So one last question from my side for the senior batch.
Right, sir?
Next, after 6 months, they'll be joining the corporate world. So some special strategies, secrets to get into some of the top-notch companies at a good salary. So they want some secrets from your side, out of your learning experience in the HR domain. I hope my team will sound with me, yes? Some strategies to crack.
Sure. Number one, score very well in your exams. What do you call it? CGPI, CQPI, whatever.
Same
So-
CGPA, yes.
Your CGPI has to be very good. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, companies will look at your CGPI. Right? And after that will come your general knowledge, your energy level, your personality, your so on and so forth. First, focus on your studies, score well in your exams, and then go to the website of each and every company that you are targeting, read it very well, read their last 10 years of records of profits, their culture. For example, I'll give you my own example. When I was passing out, I did the same thing for 35 companies. I scanned their background, their culture, the way of management, how they treat their employees. Those days there were no computers in 83. It all had to be done manually through various journals which is coming in the library. So you have to do your homework. But your CGPI is number one priority. All other qualities of your sports, your personality, your general knowledge, your energy level are important. Focus on your CGPI first. Am I right, sir?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, my name is Jyoti Shah.
Can I request you to
Yes, sir, I'm here.
write, madam?
Sir, my question is, how do you respond to negative feedbacks or bad reviews? Like, what is the process?
Yeah, there must be a reason why that person is giving bad feedback. So rather than condemning that person, you invite him to your office, listen to him carefully and understand why that person is giving negative response. If there are some imaginary complaints, try and clarify, and if there are some genuine complaints, try and rectify them. Don't brush them under the carpet, because they will only increase, they will only blow up, and they'll later on trouble you. Anybody giving negative feedback, some might be correct, some might be incorrect. Listen to the person, whatever is incorrect, convince him or her, and whatever is genuine, rectify it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, please, any more questions? Yes, please, that gentleman over there.
Good morning, sir. My name is Dheeraj. So
Right.
my question is for you is, sir, there is a novel called Unposted Letter by Maitra Rai, in which authors attempt to make a difference in personal and professional attitude. So what competencies should we adopt to make a difference in corporate?
I will not advise you to have two types of personalities. Be what you are, both at home and in office. Because people's eyes are clearer than crystal. They can see through everything. What did I say?
We should not.
People's eyes are clearer than crystal.
Crystal, yes, sir.
They can see through everything. If you are having duplicity in your personality, people will see it immediately. You will lose your credibility, your standing. Be a genuine person, both at home and at workplace, and you will be respected.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good
My
morning.
name is Shreyank Jaiswal. My question is on leadership, sir. Sir, leadership is the most important aspect of every management. So, if a company is in its introduction stage or its growth stage, so which style of leadership should it adopt that will prosper its growth in that particular period of time?
I would say, the leadership remains the same. You can't, at least I have not seen, a leader is a leader. You have to be honest, compassionate, empathetic. I've shared all that with you.
Probably he more wants to understand maybe participative, autocratic, democratic. From that perspective, he wishes
Yes, sir.
to
So
get a class.
just I want to know that means if a company is starting, it is in introduction stage, growth stage. So will there be centralized decision making or participative decision making that will prosper its growth in that particular period of time, sir?
I would say always try and keep a participative style. If you are trying to be autocratic, these days people don't like autocratic style, and you will stop getting cooperation. They'll keep quiet, they'll sulk in there, they'll say, I need the salary, not the job. Have you heard this phrase? I need the salary, not the job. So if you are too autocratic, people will develop that attitude. So carry them along, listen to their opinions. If they are not gelling with you, give logical explanations and carry on with your style. But are a genuine human being, honest, and then people will understand the reasons why this person is behaving like that. So establish your credibility. The whole corporate world depends on one word called credibility. Why was there no strike in Tata Steel for decades? Because Rosi Modi had established his credibility. So establish your credibility regardless of at which stage of the business you are, whether it's a startup or whatever.
Yes, I think one last question probably from the back. Yes.
Good morning, sir. It's me, Singh Shekhawat. Sir, I have one question that after having a world's highest demographic dividend of 62.5%, still we are at in human capital index we are 716 rank. Why? What's the reason we are lagging behind?
I would request you to ask that question to your teachers.
Yes, probably you're asking an economics question to an HR doyen, you know. So I think...
But it is concerned with the human capital, that's why I asked.
Perfect. That human capital is slightly pertaining to hardcore economics, probably your economics faculty. You can meet me, I'll handle you personally, okay? I will respond to you, don't take me wrong. So these youngsters, they probably pick up the words, not the sentiments. Probably I said I would like to respond to him, and then he thought probably I'll handle him in the true literal spirit.
Dr. Rana is too kind a person to handle you. He'll respond to you with due respect and dignity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Any more questions, please? Before we break for
Good morning, sir.
Yes,
my
please.
question is that how should we increase our confidence and overcome our fears? Would you please suggest?
Interesting. Read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And it all depends on you, how you develop yourself. You know, I've told you my own growth story. Till the age of 14, I couldn't speak a word of English, and today, when I passed out, I ended up topping India. So it's all in your hands. And that book will help you, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Did it help you, gentlemen over there who had read that book? That book will help you a lot, immensely. I mean, Dale Carnegie has gone into such intricate details of human life. That book would be a boon for you.
Okay, sir. So coming to the fear, what can we do to overcome that?
Coming to fear.
As an example, mine is embarrassment. So what should I do to overcome that?
Stop feeling embarrassed. What's there to feel embarrassed about?
No.
We all commit mistakes.
So whenever we talk to someone, what happens that we keep on rephrasing the sentences so that we don't get embarrassed in front of you. So what can we do to overcome that? My question is that.
It will come with practice. Go on practicing, removing your, too many repetitions, and everything comes. Practice makes a man perfect. You know, have you seen that a calf, when it's born, within hours it starts walking? Isn't it? And we human beings are born only with 25% of our brain capacity. The rest we have to develop from the time of our birth till the age of 18. So you have got 18 years to develop yourself by reading good books, by being in good company, by emulating successful people in your life, be in the company of successful people, imbibe their good traits, their good qualities, and that's how you, and good traits and good qualities are being honest, maintaining your integrity, being transparent, being ethical. these are the traits.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. It was a very enjoyable experience. God bless you all. And I wish you the best in your life.
Thank you, sir. Now may I request Professor Dr. Rana Singh, Director CIMP, to present memento to our honorable guest. Now may I request Professor Dr. Rana Singh to deliver the vote of thanks.
Honorable Chief Guest today, Singh Shekhawat sir, who has been a never-ending source of knowledge, skill, competence, and a dauntless spirit, as well as an everlasting source of inspiration to millions of members in the HR fraternity, teachers, faculty colleagues, my esteemed faculty colleagues, my brilliant students. I take privilege, pleasure and delight to extend my heartiest vote of thanks to our chief guest for the day, who has taken pains out of his busy schedules, traveling all the way from Jaipur to Delhi, Delhi to Patna, and in way he had a horrendous time changing his terminal T2, T1, and I'm sure even I have struggled multiple times, and I'll interact with Jyotiraditya Sindhya in my next visit, and I'll tell him, because I had an opportunity to invite him as a speaker way back in 2005, as he's an MBA from Stanford, amazing speaker and an amazing management practitioner. Earlier he was a power minister. I think now he's got a different ministry. I once again place on record my deep sense of thanks and gratitude to Shekhawat sir for his words of wisdom and for enlightening our MBA students. It's always a great pleasure listening to him at multiple forums, and he is such a passionate professional in the domain of HR. Even at this age, he really has a lot of passion to give back to the students and to the HR fraternity. He's one of the top-notch HR professionals, having following of more than 80,000 followers from HR fraternity. Please give him a big round of applause. I had the pleasure of working with his boss, Nipun Goenka ji. I was one of the 6 members of National Council of Education of CIMP, and I have worked very closely with him. And he owns a university also in the name of GD Goenka University, and has been one of the most passionate young leaders committed to the cause of delivering excellence in all spheres of industrial operations. I was still recollecting a question from this gentleman asking 2 personality traits. Sir talked about the 2 leaders, and he talked the entire traits of those 2 leaders. I'll come back. First one is your vision to achieve what you wish to be as an individual, as a company, as an organization, as a leader. And second, the commitment to achieve it. Commitment to having a vision, and second trait is to have commitment to achieve it. It's only 2 traits, and that's what makes you. I would also like to take this opportunity to extend all my brilliant faculty members who have been coordinating all these webinar sessions and inviting some of the top-notch professionals from all over the country at senior management level.
And last but not the least, I would also like to thank our Training and Placement Officer, Professor Dr. Julie Banerjee, who has been consistently reminding me to invite more and more HR people, even though she has a lot of them in her kitty as well. So I also take this opportunity to thank her for her relentless spirit to bring more and more HR professionals to give a catalytic boost to the placement process as well as to your training and upskilling process. And last but not the least, some of my colleagues, especially from the staff domain, some of them, they are always in the thankful or rather a thankless job because we only remember them when something goes wrong. So I see somebody on my right, somebody on my left, my personal driver who takes me to this hall many a times in time to make sure that I'm able to reach here, my colleagues, and this gentleman on my right, you can see this, he will wave all of you his, so please give him a big round of applause because we forget at times. And my last thanks to all my brilliant students. They are able to make it to the auditorium in time and are patient listeners and asking some brilliant questions. So thank you, a big round of applause for all of you. Thank you very much, sir. A last good news to be shared to all of you. When I met Shekhawat sir in the morning, I made a humble request to him in the light of his past experiences of multiple decades and his current experience of his association with some of the top-notch universities like Manipal University and other top-notch business schools. I requested him to get associated as a visiting faculty, especially to strengthen our HR students, and I place on record my thanks and gratitude for him to have accepted. And I have already done the coronation by officially helping him with the CIMP tie. Probably you can see him in the red tie. So I officially accorded him a warm welcome to the CIMP family. I think we can have a bigger round of applause for him. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thanks, sir.
I now request everyone to please arise for the national anthem.
Jana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Uttara Vanga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga Tava Shubha Name Jage तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you. Have a great day. Jai Hind.